Ball python pricing and negotiation. This can always be treacherous to navigate, and it's an ever-changing landscape. Today, I got thoughts on 5 topics related to pricing and negotiation, and I'll talk about them from both the buyer and the seller's point of view. What's going on, everybody? It is Adam at Proper Royals. I hope you're having a great day, and I appreciate you checking out my channel. If we haven't met before, Proper Royals is a documentation of my family's journey from ball python hobbyist to ball python business. We document everything right here, and check it out in the future with us. Ball python pricing, a lot of times I kind of make these videos to share what I've learned and what I've experienced, but today is really it's really an opinion piece kind of thing, because there's so many different ways to conduct business. If you have different thoughts or opinions, let me know. We'll continue the conversation. Hopefully we, keep it respectful and take care of each other, because it is a community hobby. But I'd be interested in knowing your thoughts as well. Ball python pricing, when you're new to the hobby, it can be incredibly overwhelming, especially if you're a pet owner and not particularly interested in breeding. Last breeding season, the financial year 2021, I sold hatchlings from clutches that my snakes produced from $45 to $700, and I'm still pretty much on the entry level. It goes way up from there. If you're really new to the hobby and you're not aware, there's ball pythons for sale right now that are actually legitimately priced in the $15,000 to $20,000 range. And there's lots of videos out there on why ball pythons cost what they do. But in a quick nutshell, it's a market value that's a little bit nebulous to put your head and hands around, but it's a time and cost analysis that really is at a pretty high magnitude. You get 1 clutch of eggs per year per snake, and that's if you do everything just right, and it is a year that your snake is going to lay eggs. Generally, every 3rd or 4th year, we give them a year off, those females. There's a lot of time and effort and energy that goes into breeding ball pythons, not to mention feeding them along the way, the cleaning hours, all that stuff. They can get expensive. But what separates a $45 snake from a $15,000 or $20,000 snake, that's of course the genes and its rarity and general market forces of supply and demand. I can tell you those at that price, there's literally only maybe 1 or 2 in the world that have those specific combinations of genes, and they haven't been made otherwise yet or bred otherwise. Doesn't mean they won't be in the future, and when they are, that price predictably should come down. So that really isn't what I wanted to get into talking about. I really meant more the interpersonal relationships of customers, the buyers, and sellers, the producers. It's all too easy in any business to forget that both need each other. It's so easy. My background's restaurants. It was so easy to resent somebody that had a persnickety order. I want my steak this way and not this way with this on it and that on it. Well, man, I'm selling premium steaks at a premium price. They should get to decide how they want their steak. We make fun of people at Starbucks for how they order coffee, right? I do, anyhow. I admit it. On the other hand, if you're paying $6, $7 or more for a cup of coffee when you can buy a whole pound of coffee for $6 or $7 at the grocery store, maybe you have a right to be a little crazy about how you order. So as sellers and producers, we forget that sometimes. And as buyers, we got to remember the people on the other end of the phone are human. They got a business to run. They got time in their lives. They have money invested in their product. And we can't abuse that either. I wanted to talk about 5 topics today that center around pricing and negotiation between buyer and seller. And the first topic I want to talk about is honesty. Honestly, if there was only one topic to discuss today, it would be honesty. From a seller's standpoint, if you're not honest about what you're selling, how you're able to deliver it, and your ability to stand by that product, you are never going to succeed. You are nothing more than, at best, snake oil salesman, and at worst, an outright scammer. You got to be able to be honest. You got to be able to look people in the eye and go, this is what I'm saying it is, and I promise it's that, and you never have to worry about that. This hobby is too small to go burning bridges and to go lying to people and undermining people. Reputations stick with you, and they stick with you for a long time. Apart from just community chatter, I mean, everything's got rating systems now. Morph Market, our industry's biggest marketplace, rates buyers and sellers, but really it rates sellers. If you want to establish your brand, your honesty is all that you've got. Really at its core, one of the biggest reasons I started this channel was to add to my own veracity or truthfulness of what I was selling. If you see 4 months ago I was pairing these animals, and 2 months ago this female ovulated, and now I'm cutting eggs, the babies match up with what I was saying, and you could witness and sort of forensically track the history, or I could share that history with you. It just adds more accountability and a higher level of truth to what I'm selling, and maybe that would separate me from other sellers. You gotta be honest. Likewise, as a buyer, be honest with the seller. If you need help understanding how to take care of your ball python, don't be embarrassed by it. If that seller is gonna belittle you because you asked for help, maybe they're not the right seller for you. You'll find the right person, but just be honest. If you intend to pay somebody, if you don't intend to pay them, if you intend that you're gonna need something spread out, just be honest with people, and we're gonna get much further, much quicker in this hobby, in this industry together. My second topic is pricing animals at what they're worth. This is a touchy topic because this answer is different for every person, and I have to readily acknowledge that. So let me talk about one scenario, and then we're going to set that scenario aside. If you're selling ball pythons and you truly need food on the table, or you need your electricity to stay on, and ball pythons are how you provide for yourself, then maybe sometimes you have to undercut the market. If you need $200 to live and you got a $500 snake and you just need to sell it for $200, okay, I can live with that. I can live with any of it. It's your choice. All of it's your choice. You do what you want. I get that, but I don't think that's the majority of sellers. Aside from that kind of scenario, price your animals what they're worth. I don't see a reason why you should have to undercut the market if you have an animal that is worth what it's selling for. Now, not all of us are going to be Justin and Ozzy and Billy, but I don't necessarily think that their prices are the market price. I think people will pay a premium for their brands. I'm not saying you got to compete directly with them, but I also don't think that you need to sell yourself short. What something's worth is what it's worth. If you're honest about what you're creating and making, and honest about what you're selling, you should be able to demand an honest price for it. As a buyer, we all want a deal. I get it. I have been called cheap in my life. Can you believe that? Somebody would call me cheap. We all love a deal. We all love negotiating. We all love feeling like we've won. Here's the thing, with the advent of Morph Market, with the advent of YouTube, with the advent of Instagram, and being able to, and a seller to get their snakes out to a captive audience, if a snake is worth something, don't haggle over 10 or 20 bucks with the person. I mean, seriously, it's certainly off-putting and it's frustrating, but it comes down to wasting time. Even if the person isn't offended or annoyed or frustrated by it, you're just gonna miss out because somebody else is gonna pay the 10 or 20 bucks. Here's the other thing. Let's go a little philosophically deeper, because I know from personal experience, like sometimes I can't let go of the thrill of the deal, right? Like you still, with guitars, man, I do it all the time. I figure out how to find a deal and all of that. Let's put it another way. If you really need a specific snake with a specific gene combination, and that snake is right there available and it's in front of you, is 10 or 20 bucks or $100, depending, everything's relative, going to make a difference in the long run when you're producing 6 to 8 hatchlings a year that presumably you needed that snake to produce to get to that goal? From a business standpoint, you go ahead and get what you got to get. Don't go in the hole. Don't go over leveraging yourself. Watch out for debt. All of those good things. There's a balance there. Maybe you don't really need the snake, but if you need it, consider what you're haggling over. Is that going to make a difference in the long run of 2 to 3 or 4 years worth of clutches that you're going to sell and multiply the value of that snake by 10, 20x? Make the call. That ties into my third topic, which is don't waste people's time. As a seller, you certainly can't waste your customers' time. Treat them with urgency. What better way to show care and concern and appreciation for potential customers than replying to them in an urgent way? Imagine if you were at a restaurant. I always go back to restaurant analogies. If your food takes 30 minutes and you think it's an appetizer that should take 10 minutes, you feel like you're not being treated with urgency and with appreciation because you are the one who's bringing money to the table for this value-added good that the restaurant needs to sell to you and make you happy to give them money for. If you don't feel like you're appreciated for your money or your willingness to spend it, you become less willing to spend it. You got to think that about your customers too. I realize, let me tell you, people will call you at all hours of the day. People will text you, email you at all hours of the day. I'm not saying to change your life. You got to put barriers and we got to sleep and all of that. The United States itself has 3-4 time zones. This is an international world now. You're watching this on YouTube and you could be watching from anywhere in the world at any time of the day. If you want to be accessible to your customers, you got to realize it's going to be a little inconvenient sometimes. If somebody has to wait 10 or 8 or 10 hours for a response because you're sleeping, that's one thing. If you're not getting to people within half a day, you're probably missing out as a seller. From a buyer standpoint, let me tell you, you got to be decisive. As a seller who put up with even just a small portion sample size, I only had 15 hatchlings last year. The number of tire kicking, and I hate using that because every inquiry is a potential customer. But man, be honest, be upfront about your price and your intentions as a buyer. If you're truly not ready and you just need a question answered, make it decisive and ask that question right away. Get in and get out. If I hear one more time, let me check with my wife. Oh, check with your wife first. Again, you're probably going to miss out because if it's posted on Morph Market and you want it, somebody else wants it. If it's being shown on YouTube, and you got to realize, like, I'm at the low end of the totem pole, but even I've got over 1,000 subscribers. That's 1,000 people that could be watching this video and be interested in what I'm selling if I post snakes on a video. Don't waste people's time. Know what your goal is. Know what your intention is. I hate to say this. This is going to make me sound horrible. If you're reaching out to a stranger that's a seller, they may or may not be interested in all the 19 breeding plans and things you could do and a snake you picked up 2 weeks ago and what you're going to pair this one with. Sometimes sure, sometimes not. I love making connections with my buyers. I like to get the business part of it done first, and then I give you all the time in the world. And I want to build a community, but that sort of chat is better in this setting, on a YouTube channel, on comments, on the community forum, on Morph Market, on Instagram comments and chats. That's where we build community. When we're doing business, let's do business. Does that make me sound like a jerk? I don't want to be a jerk. Right things in the right places, no? Negotiating. When you're negotiating, put everything we've just talked about. Honesty. Don't waste people's time. Consider what an animal's worth and do you need it in your project? And then, fine, if you want to make an offer, make an offer. I'm not saying don't negotiate. I'm not telling sellers not to expect or to get mad at people that do want to negotiate. As a seller, I'll tell you, when somebody comes to me and says, well, what's the lowest price you'll go? Like, I want to go, I've named my price. If you want to make a counter offer, I'll listen to it, but you just expect me because you asked to negotiate down with myself? Why don't you tell me what it's worth and I'll consider if I want to take that money right then. The other part of it is, for me, it's only business. I'm never going to be offended by an offer that you make. Even if it's an offensive offer, I'm not going to be offended by it. That's business. That is a business bucket. You're not offending me personally. You're not insulting me and my intelligence. You're not insulting my family. You might be wasting a little bit of my time if it's not an honest offer, but otherwise, I'm not going to be offended by it. Make an offer. Make it confidently. Be willing to negotiate. That's fine, but you got to be decisive and you can't just go, well, what's the lowest you would take? What's the lowest you take? That puts the responsibility back on the seller. It takes more time versus going, I'll offer you X number of dollars for whatever reason. Maybe it's all you got. Maybe it's all you think it's worth. Maybe you don't need an explanation. Here's what I'll pay you right here, right now. Would you like it or not? Get it to a binary yes or no. That's just my opinion. Again, I know people love negotiating. I know that everybody's got a different tactic of what works. For me, make me make a decision and I'll give you a yes or no. I do not want to be asked, what's the least you'll take for it? Did you tell me what the least I'll take for it is? I'll make a decision of whether I'll take it or not. How about that? My fifth and final point, if I had to title the category, is don't go falling in love. And what I really mean is don't get your emotions tied up in this. This is business. Don't get offended because somebody made you an offer that to them felt honest, but to you felt like it was inconsiderate. They probably didn't mean anything by it. Assume some innocence. Give people a break. Whoop-de-doo. A no thank you goes just as far or farther than reaming them because you got offended over their offer. That's really, really silly. So don't go getting your emotions tied up in this. It's a money business thing. As a buyer, don't go falling in love with a snake. One thing I have found, and I think I alluded to guitars earlier, I enjoy collecting and buying and flipping and selling and playing guitars. I love guitars. There's always another guitar out there. There is always another snake out there. We all feel like there's what do they call it? FOMO, fear of missing out. There's this urgency that we put on ourselves that we imagine is so urgent, and the world relies on it. And sometimes it does. With a breeding season, you got a finite amount of time. You need a certain thing by a certain date. Okay, I get it. There's a little bit of that, but there's always another snake, and there's always another option. There's more than 200 genes out there. If one thing ain't gonna work and it's truly that urgent, pivot just slightly. You'll find something close. You'll find another option. Don't go falling in love, no matter how special that animal is, because you're gonna make a bad decision that's based on emotions rather than rational thought. If it's a pet and you're only gonna buy one or two, okay, have a little emotional fun, go falling in love. If it's a business decision, do not let yourself go falling in love and make an emotional decision. These things get too expensive too quick, and I see people get too far in debt and over leveraged when they go falling in love making emotional decisions. So what do you think? Am I off my rocker? Am I not looking at things right? What points am I missing? What do you think of when you get into a pricing or negotiation situation with your animals as either a seller or a buyer? Let me know your thoughts. There's all kinds of ways to reach me. The comments, email me in the links below, Instagram, Facebook, all those places. Let me know what's up. And keep it right here on the Proper Royals channel, and you can check out these videos where we talk about everything right here that we got going on at Proper Royals. Till next time, thanks for watching. See ya!